everyone. Hello, good day, everyone, and thank you for being here today with Pro Quality Community. My name is Alena, and I'll be your host on this great event. We are going to talk about simple yet tricky thing, metrics. Specifically, how to get insights on current project health, taking into account project specifics at any given moment with all the details needed. Dear listeners, please feel free to ask any questions via our YouTube chat. We'll pick them up a little bit later in the Q&A section. And now we are delighted to have Maksim, head of QA in Softermii, 12 years experience in IT, and he will join us as a speaker. Hi, Maksim.
Hi, Lona. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining. And Maksim, could you please share some insights about your career path and in testing and overall?
All right. I will be short here because it will take too much time to explain all 12 years so far. So I started my journey in 2010. I started with enterprise big company for the telecom. And through the 3 years, I got a lot of experience, a lot of practice of attacking with a large team. So finally, in 3 years, I become a senior key engineer based on my practice and experience level. Then in a couple months, I was promoted to the key lead as I had all skills that is required for this position. Probably it's natural skills, because I was not trained. I was always proactive, initiative, and so on. That is those ones that is required for the key lead. And as a key lead, then I've been working for the 2 years so far. And then I got opportunity to be promoted as a business analyst for the same project and be moved to the United States. It was exactly 2013 years. And that was those opportunities that I can't say no, that's why I accepted it. And me and my wife moved to the United States as a business analyst, where I started my career on a different branch. For the project as a business analyst, I've been working for 3 years so far. And once project was done at United States, my company offered me to move to Canada for another project. It also like telecom related domain activity. So I also agreed for it. We moved to Canada, spent 1 year and a half around it. Then we got the great occasion. My wife became pregnant, actually, and we decided to return to Ukraine finally, right? We wanted to build family exactly at the Ukrainian land. So I returned back to the Sumy city that I initially started my career from, and spent about 1 year as a key lead. So I returned back from the business analyst activities to key lead. Then from Sumy, I moved to Kiev to Luxoft company, where I spent more than 2 years as a key lead so far as well for another enterprise projects. And finally, I got opportunity to join Softermii company with a position as a head of QA/BA, because once again, my experience is pretty much halfly divided between the key activities and BA, and a lot of leads activity. So that is exactly opportunities that I've been looking for. Now I'm working at Softermii company for 3 years and a half so far, and happy at this point.
Well, that's quite impressive career path. You almost did a round trip around the world on this career path, and who knows what waits you next. Cool. So, and Maksim, regarding today's topic, then why did you choose specifically this topic to share with us? And why do you think is that important?
All right. So initially, when we spoke with you about which topic will be interested for the audience and for the community overall, we initially set up with you the pretty much demand that it should be some unique experience that is not like SQTB foundation of innovators, because it could be found on the internet so far, right? And that is my initial pain point when I joined Softermii company as head of QA. Because, as I said, I had a lot of experience previously, but not as a head, because it's pretty much not a hard task to lead a team of the BAs or QAs in context of one project. When you know all team, when you know what is the project about, domain, what is the next steps, when the release planet, UAT, or whenever other specific parameters of this project. But when I became the head of QA and BA, I got not one project, but at least 20 projects that I need to supervise, pretty much make sure that my people are doing the great performance and showing the great results overall on these projects. And then my common approach that is used to work before, it's actually becomes like not relevant because I don't have like enough time to actually drill down into each individual project, understand the details of it, domain of it, and then effectively based on this resolve the issues that could be addressed from my colleague side or from PM side or from client side and so on, right? So that is main point why I started to make the analytics around how exactly I can be effective in terms of the managing the project, especially when there is many around them, right? And I realized that initially is that I don't need to do just, like a metrics. I don't need just to spend a lot of time for it because my main responsibility as a head of QA is people management, right? It's to hire right people, make sure that they providing the good performance, and make sure that processes overall align it with practice as it's supposed to be. So in general, like a client should get what exactly he expects to get when he is have a contract with us. So that is exactly my first point where my journey started for this specific exercise and for the framework. And I started originally with the problem statements, right, that you can see on this current slide, that I discovered through the couple months working as a head of key. First one that I faced overall, that I saw that even when the people are very good, like a superstars at the interview, and when they are really know what they are talking about, when it started to to work as a practice on the project, then I received like a feedback or from the PM or client that specific gaps are missed, like no mobile testing was done. Then performance testing was not executed, but client and PM like expected. It's obvious that he has to do it, right? And many other points around it. And that's why having this analysis of retrospective, how I need exactly to handle it, I defined that I need to find the good way how I can exactly define and do the proactive monitoring of a project to make sure that I'm not like receiving the issues, but I'm actually proactively avoiding issues to be happening on the project so far, right? And if you in this situation, you will ask somebody like, how should I do it and how should I act in this situation, right? I'm sure that people will start in like replying to you, hey, you need to use the metrics. And use the metrics for the test case coverage, use metrics for the bugs and test cases correlation, bugs and code correlation, and so on. But problem is that overall, based on my experience, worldwide key practice counts around like 100 key metrics that could be used for one or another situations. But the main point here is that each individual metrics requires time and data to be generated through this time to actually show your result, how your team member actually performed on the project. And it's actually not the proactive approach, right? Because when you look in retrospectively for the last ones, yeah, you can see that there was some gaps. Metrics will show you that for sure there was some problematic points in requirements, or QA engineer missed some points of a testing, like bad performance or whenever it is. But once again, at Softermii side, we have a lot of startup clients that are not willing to wait for 1 month until actually team will be set it up. While we'll do this all retrospectives, fixing the gaps, right, in the processes, in the performance, and we'll start the performing from the month number 2 or even month number 3. That's why metrics as an instrument, it's actually didn't work for me at those time. And what exactly I started to realizing that I need to define the approach once again. Later on, I call it as a framework, right? But I need to define exactly way how I'm going to specify and get exactly issue in time and to be proactively catch it on time and do not avoid to fire actually happened and not having the escalation from the client side. Yeah, so attention focus slide, as you can see currently on the screen, it's something that I'm going to use through my speech because there is a lot of information that I'm going to give you today. And especially on this slide, I'm going to stop and make the summary for the areas that we covered at this point, right? So return back your attention and make sure that you're following my conversation. So let's move further to the next one. So today for agenda perspective, right? Problem statement, pretty much we already covered on the previous slide. Two major points from the problem statement, once again, it's lack of proactive approach to identify issues from the day one once project is launched. It's in general the question of the quick, successful project launch from the performance team perspective. Second point, it's organization, like self-organization of the key engineers on the project. Because I'm as a head of QA, once again, I'm not expecting to micromanage all my people on each individual project, right? I'm expecting them contract is signed, I hired them, and I'm expecting them to actually show the good job and show the good results according to the processes and key practice that we are declaring for them. So next agenda point that we're going to discuss, it's actual project health checkpoints. It's exactly body of our framework, how it's assessed, how it's decomposed, and what we exactly measuring to actually declare that it is proactive approach. And finally, we can say that in the first week or even first days, we able to get results from the from the project. Another one, it's next one, project health check process. It's exactly a guide of how to work with these checkpoints from the previous agenda slide. And as a summary, I will share with you my key values that I finally discovered for me during this journey and working with this report. So let's jump further. The idea that once again came to my mind originally after the couple months of the retrospective, that I realized that that we have a process, right? It's usually test management lifecycle, and for this test management lifecycle, it consists with many steps and exercises and artifacts that key engineer has to execute, generate, and provide. But what's important that for sure there is other data and artifacts that serve as preconditions for the test management lifecycles, because if there is no like requirements or there is no code to be tested, right? Then test management lifecycle could not be executed and even not started. That's why idea simple is here. Once again, it's to define the main points and dependencies of key test management lifecycle, right? Document it in one place and then decompose into the specific actions or artifacts or whenever milestones that a key engineer has to follow and then reporting back to you. Next one is give actually guide to key team on how to evaluate this point. We will review with you this guide. And finally, get feedback on the weekly basis on those points that you would like to evaluate, measure, and give feedback for, starting from the first day of a project. And pretty much this approach guarantees that you have a green light for the project from the very beginning, or project may be in the red light, but you already know the issues and you can proactively act on it to have the less effect on the project timeline so far. So now let's go to the body of the assessment points. So as I said, our main idea is to exactly decompose the test management lifecycle into the specific points to be tracked. And before we decompose it into the exactly points, we initially started to define the high-level groups of it. Groups could be like the like a preconditions that has to be defined before key starts work, then actual key work that he needs to execute, then like finalization of a process and other next steps. Right? We're going to review it in detail through the slides. But first one that I'm offering you to take a look on, it's QA is a carrier of the information related to the product. Means that it is exactly those preconditions and input materials that are required for the QA to exactly understand requirements, functions, what test coverage should be, what has to be tested, which testing type has to be engaged to test the product and so on, right? So first one that we did is to exactly thought about the preconditions. And my recommendation here as a process, once again, how you can do it is from your side, define the inputs from for development team. It's usually, once again, it's requirements. Figma design could be some other specific artifacts, maybe use cases diagram, BPM diagram, whenever you have it inside of your organization, right? Then next one that you evaluating, actually, it's you asking your QA to evaluate these artifacts and actually give a feedback. Are these artifacts actually presented on the project? How good they are in turn to allow key engineer to do the assessment of it, right? So to understand the scope of a testing and so on. That is a point number two. And once your key engineer providing you feedback that some artifact is missed, or it's not in the good quality, or specific gap is defined, some questions here, then through the process, you need to act immediately, means you or either your key lead has to work on the proposal, on the next steps, how to resolve it. In general, it could be proposal, just go to PM and discuss why there is specific artifact is not there. You can also go primary to the business analyst if the issue on his side and discuss the gap that we define it, and help the engineer actually to resolve this issue, get the artifacts updated and pass it on his side. One example, once again, that we are tracking from our side, it's user story, UI UX Figma, and etc. So it's a major artifact that we are tracking from our side. Next one, it's exactly a group of milestones and points that we call key controls the process of development. Because key not just sitting and waiting when the specific feature going to be developed and deployed to test environment or stage environment, right? QA actively participate in daily meetings, socializing with the colleagues, with the developers team, and so on, right? So that is exactly point where QA, to get the good code quality, QA need to make sure that team actually following the normal process like agile process or waterfall methodology or Scrum methodology, whenever it is that pick it up on the team side. But once again, the main point that key team participated and key evaluates how exactly these specific processes are aligned inside of a team. So that is next action that we could decompose here. We are making the composition of the test management lifecycle. We are defining the major points of the development and testing process, tools that should be used, potential issues that could affect testing and delivery, communication channels, then specific milestones that has to be done from the development team. For example, the code review, right? I saw some projects where code review is not done. Do not assume that it's actually executed for 100% and you get the good quality, good code quality. The same example could be the unit tests, right? You're expecting that unit test to be written and executed from your side as a key engineer, but it's actually not. That is a point to track as well and report as an issue right away. And do not wait the end of a project to finally see that you have the more bugs that you expected and delivery happened not in time. So once you define these points from the test management lifecycle, it is the same approach as for previous slide, right? Make sure that these steps, no steps of the test management lifecycle are omitted and proper tools are engaged, right? In case if it's not, then it's time to do the reporting to your lead, to your head, or to the PM with declaration. Guys, I have a problem. This one is the specific step of a process is not executed, and I see the risk that we will get the bad code quality as final, right? So we will not see the successful delivery. And all this block target is to exactly make sure that people that gather it as a team, they actually not acting individually, but they finally becomes as a team from the first days of a project. Because if QA controls it, and this tool allows you QA to control these key points, then everybody understands what is expected from the all roles, right? And once the issue is highlighted, it should be fixed by, and finally, a group of people becomes a team. And the process is sufficient, and that is resolving any bottlenecks and the quality problems for the future delivery. Some examples of a process point that we actually track on my side, it changes to sprint scope. ZK makes the reporting about any stable or not stable sprint scope so far. We all know how the one or two features to the sprint affects the final delivery of it. How well Jira Slack Confluence communication is established. I saw a lot of examples when Jira comments are not documented. We previously used the Slack communication, now we're using the Discord communication. A lot of information actually goes to the text channels. But in 1 month or 2 months, when you're trying to clarify some specific information that's related to features that been implemented a couple months ago, right? Then you can rely only on Jira or Confluence. All text channels doesn't work because it's a lot of text that you can try to search for it, but usually doesn't work, right? So that's another point that Cake tracks on our side, that Jira comments properly tracked, Confluence communication properly also tracked, means the approvals are provided from both sides, from the designer side, from the developer side after the grooming and so on. So everything is documented and captured. Next group of the points that we are assessing, it calls QA is responsible for end quality of a product, right? Once testing is done, overall for the feature scope that is planned for the release, work is still not done, right? There is a lot of other activities that has to be executed by QA engineer to make sure that build is actually release candidate and QA can approve it. That is intention of this group, is to think about and define the actual actions, steps, milestones that has to be done after the soft freeze happened, right? Once you decompose these steps, the next one is the same. It's control that it is engaged and executed. You can ask K team to pay attention to the sprint exit criteria, for example, through this framework to make sure that they actually not omit it once again, and K engineer actually executes it and provides you the proof that specific sprint passed exit criteria or specific feature passed this exit criteria so far, right? So that is exactly those, on my experience, like last point of a process where I solve the more gaps, because everybody used to test features, everybody know how to write these cases, everybody know how to create the bugs and report them, right? But when it comes to the end of a process, to actually before delivery, I mean like 1 week before delivery or 2 weeks before delivery, then there is a lot of gaps, and you as a lead or as a head, or if you like leading your team, whenever it is, you need to set up exactly points that you are going to track to make sure they not omitted once again. And if key engineer makes you feedback that, okay, this one is not available to be tested or executed because of the specific blocker, then you act immediately, help him to resolve it. Or during the review of the report, you actually can see that the specific point of a process is not executed, means it's not evaluated, and you don't see the feedback from your key engineer. Then you can ask questions. Why this one is not executed? I expected it to be done by this week or whenever it is. So once again, it's not like one way direction framework. It's something that key engineer shares feedback from from his side, and you as a lead or head, you can also ask a question to clarify the specific point and double check that it's actually executed. So some examples of points that we evaluate as the drivers of the end quality, it's fact that soft or and hard freeze actually engaged. Many people, many projects where I saw once again, simple soft and hard freeze is not engaged, regression executed, new bugs appears, and then we go in through the cycle of the bug fixing for the another like 3 weeks, but it was planned initially for 5 days only, right? So now we have the soft hard freeze established. It's there and nobody meets it. Next point, evaluate like alignment with key plan, where actually my key engineers all doing the estimation and planning of their activities through the sprint and for the release overall. And if something goes not okay according to the key plan, they defining it and they providing feedback to my side, so I can finally see and understand what is the all reason about why it's actually any deviation and so on. Plus, planet smoke at production. This one is actually once again based on the experience of a gaps when release actually happened, but smoke activity is not executed on production, right? So I include it into my report. And now whenever I'm meeting with my key engineers, I can ask a question like why it's not still executed, or they see that during the fulfilling of this report and providing me feedback, they know that smoke at production is mandatory. So now as soon as we engage this report, nobody forgets to actually execute it. That is another pros of this approach. And last one, I call it like a generic. That is like a group where you can add some specific milestone or points that not exactly like engage it as part of a process. It's could be like some examples that you may see on my slide. It's is mobile adaptive testing executed, is performance testing executed, get the feedback from the key team about the key load balance. Usually at our site, QA is on couple projects, like means 2 projects at the same time. And that exactly point where they providing you feedback, how good they feel about the balancing between the projects. Because 2 projects, 2 different PMs, and everybody tries to get the QA to his side as more as possible. But it's not ideal that we are working with, right? We need to have that comfortable conditions for my key engineers on the project and actually be able to positively work on the 2 projects in parallel. Yeah, so this one, like mobile adaptive testing, it's one of the examples that you may see not actually part of a process, but it's one of the type of a testing that has to be executed on one or another stages of a project. The same from the performance testing, right? That is another stuff that is not included into the test management lifecycle. But in general, it should be done at least once per release. That is exactly a point to track it. You can also think about other points that you may track from your, but depending on your demand, depending on your understanding of situation. But in general, it calls once again be creative, right? So using the approach and guide from the previous slides, set up your points that you think also should be tracked from your side. Usually it's once again based on your experience, on the gaps, problems that you used to have, and you actually don't want to face them anymore, right? That is exactly another point that would be placed here as another approach how to fulfill it. And another point that is my recommendation for all of you as well, that project health points, they has to be reviewed at least like a minimum 3 months with team to actually understand which specific points are still relevant and which one are not. Because you're starting with specific, like let's say obvious gaps, right? And then team is pretty much very quickly based on this framework, starting avoiding it and actually executing processes without any gaps or problems. So finally, this point remain just green forever. That's why it doesn't make sense to track it further. and you just delete it from your report and adding some new one. That's the way how you working, like defining issues, resolving it through the 3 months. I'm actually recommending to resolve it exactly through the 3 months, like one quota, because if you're not able to resolve it like for more than 3 months, looks like you have the systematical problem, right? That you need to escalate probably higher, or of whenever channel of communication you have further. But once again, the processual issues, like we all know, the habits are established in 21 days. So it's 1 month to establish habit, another month to control it, and month number 3, it's actually do the polishing of it from the execution perspective. All right, so that's pretty much body of our report so far and framework. So once again, this one is the attention focus slide to make the recap. That we review it once again. You need to take your process whenever it is, because SQTB Foundation is good one, but everybody works in his company with a specific adaptive process of a testing, right? So take the process, define the high-level grouping of this process overall, then decompose the specific groups into the points, milestones, or artifacts that you expected to be executed through the project, right? And do the request feedback from from your colleagues on the weekly basis and track it through the project execution. Do not stop. Once again, I do not recommend to stop monitoring of this report. Even if you will ask me like, okay, 20 projects is fine, but what about like 40 projects or 50 projects, right? That is a question that have a simple answer. You don't need to have the live communication with all colleagues and with all projects, because this framework allows you to exactly define heat map of your projects, right? Some quantity of a projects will be green because like no issues are reported and everything fine, and you trust actually these results. Some of them could be yellow and some of them could be red. So for red zone, that is exactly point that you need to pay attention and have the live calls. For yellow one, it's something that for your consideration. For green one, it's something that you can review offline. I'm personally, we will take a look on it further, right? I'm personally making the automatical calculation of all feedback from all reports, and it shows me the overall statistics and heat map for all my projects. So once my colleagues by Thursday, they will fulfill the report. I'm opening my spreadsheet like dashboard, and I already see which projects I'm going to pay attention by tomorrow. I'm not going to review all 50. I'm going just to pay attention on 5 or 6 of them, right? And then all other one I will just review quickly offline, and that's it. That's how it's supposed to work. So moving on to the next one, how exactly we going to evaluate points, right? And system pretty much very simple. It's 0 to 5 evaluation, like a mark of it. And as you can see on the slides, 0 is where process or point is absent at all at the project and not executed. That's exactly, I had actually the funny situation when I initially generated report, this framework, right, in the Excel spreadsheet. I defined those my expectation, what exactly has to be done from the artifacts perspective and so on. And then I got a question from my Q engineers, what is it and how I actually has to generate it, right? So that is exactly where they returned it to me with 0. Like it's absent at all on our projects. We need to fix it, yeah, and we actually fixed it quickly, explain it what has to be done, and that's the way how it's supposed to work actually as part of this report. 1/2. The problem is critical and QA does not see any ways to resolve it on his level. 1 and 2 actually defines the escalation level, right? If you will see that point is in this specific range, then you do not expect QA engineer to brainstorm and come to you with some specific ideas and proposals how to resolve it. You need to exactly understand what is the problem is, and act from your side. Do the proposal, do the all resolution, communication, and so on, because this one is a critical situation. If absent, usually it's considered to the specific artifacts, but if process in this range, it's critical situations that you need to start acting immediately. It's red zone of your project. Three, it's actually problem is critical, right? But QA has a vision and proposal how to resolve it. In general, your key engineer says, hey, I know what to do. Yes, this is a bad situation, but that's what I'm going to try out by next week and keep you posted on this one. You validating the steps and you let it go and allow your key engineer to actually work. And that, by the way, another good point for IDP development and for the future salary reviews, right? Because if you see that your employee is proactive and actually resolving the issues and initiative and so on, that is the people that you need to have inside of your company. Number four, minor problems that don't affect the project much. In general, it's green zone. 4 and 5, and 5 no issue at all. It's ideal situation. Minor problems from my perspective, it's also considered as a green, and I'm not paying much attention on this one. Usually, it's something that key engineer deals with it in this way. Moving on. Next one, exactly values, right? Key values for me as a lead head. But before we'll go into the details, like that you can see on this slide, I believe that on this session we have also not just leads or head of case. I believe it's key engineers from the junior to senior level, right? And guys, for you especially, this framework declares ability of the self-organization. It's not like you preparing to the interview and reading all theory and then keeping it in mind through the whole working time that what you need to do and when you need to do. That pretty much your map of the project that we will take a look on the example how we arrange it, but you actually make it fulfilling from the left to right. Left, it's start of a project, like preconditions, then it goes to the middle of execution, wrap up of the project, and so on. So you're pretty much feeling your progress of a project and you understand what are the next steps, what are the dependencies, what has to be done. Honestly speaking, if my key engineers, like before this framework actually was engaged in on our side, right, came up to my site with a report, hey, I started the project, I see the next gaps, and provided for me assessment like this one that this framework defines. Honestly, I would be very surprised and happy with it. Because once again, this one would demonstrate the great involvement of the key engineer inside of a project, and actually the impression that you actually understand what you are doing and what you need to do, like as the next steps. That's why if you are looking for the way how to on your experience level as a junior QA, let's say like 6 months of experience or 1 year of experience, try this out as a organization tool. And then once you fulfill 1-2 weeks, you can share it with your PM or whenever it is with the team, and everybody will say thank you for you because you actually did assessment of a project, you declared and documented all issues that you currently have, and finally you asking team help to resolve it. And if it's actually team, not a group of people, right, they will help you to resolve it. So that is a key point for the key engineers overall, from the self-organization perspective. As for head and leads, the key values here, it's no micromanagement, right? I'm totally able not to sit with everybody, my teammate, my key engineer, and doing it. It's something that I was doing when I was key lead, but it was also not the good approach to do, right? So now I'm fully implementing the helicopter approach. It's when you're flying around your projects, and when you see some red zone on your project, then you make this sit down to it and actually trying to understand what is wrong and help to resolve it. Once issue is resolved, you just take off with your helicopter and flying away. That's the tool, that's the exactly that this framework helps you to do, to implement the pure helicopter managing approach. Then feedback from the first day week. This one is actually proactivity that I've been looking for, because once project is launched, I'm giving my key engineer teams to onboard to the project, like meet the team, customer, read requirements, pretty much to do the assessment according to our framework. And then in 4 or 5 days, we making a meeting, and I'm actually seeing the first results. How project started. Is it currently started in green zone, or it's currently in yellow zone, or in red zone? And if it's in red zone, then I'm proactively, according to this helicopter managing approach, joining and helping guys to resolve the issues. So once again, we're looking for the quick start of a project and give the to customers the deliverable and values from the first sprint, not like trying to calibrate the team for the couple months and then just performing. Grow key maturity, it's also another great point that I discovered through the working on with this framework. It was not intended in this way, but I noticed that my key engineers started to actually learn more. They understand the more details of a process. They understand the steps of a process overall. They just know that a QA profession is not just reading requirements, writing test cases, testing, and reporting a bug. Is much more deeper and complex exercise that usually, like discovered on the senior level or middle plus level. But now I'm working with junior key engineers that actually work in my department, and they have ability quickly learn the process, quickly learn their responsibility, and they are growing very fast. In general, I'm taking the people like junior plus level with less than 1 year experience, and in couple months, like half of a year, they already acting like a middle or middle plus level. So this one in another plus for you guys from the how to quickly rise, how to quickly grow to the levels of maturity, right, to the middle or to senior level. And another one key, it's time, right? So 15 minutes, it's maximum that I'm dedicated to review the report with my team to actually get the status of it, to actually understand the RAG of a project, and it's more than enough. Usually it takes 4 minutes, 5 minutes. For red project, it's 15 minutes. And in case if you see the problem is really huge and large and you're not able to propose any resolution, I'm booking a meeting through the day further to have a dedicated session, discuss the specific question. All right, so now you may see the example of report, how we actually arranged it. I'm not going to stop on it because I see that timing is narrow. I should speak a little bit faster, but anyway, from the structure perspective, you can see the groups. Key is the carrier of the information related to the product. Key controls the process development. Generic one, responsible for end quality. Then we have the project. We have a dates, timestamps, where this field, when key requires to fill it. Then some average calculation per the specific parameter. This one is average calculation by the week. So that is exactly heat map. The green, red, or whatever it is. And this one is the average through the specific point of assessment. If it's like was bad, then it's good. Average, as you can see, calculated in this way. That allows you to get the statistics through the quota or 1 year so far. And here you may see the points that I provided for you some examples through the slides. Some points I wiped it out, right? Replace it with the points. Once again, I'm expecting you to take the process and guides that I'm giving to you. Maybe take some points as is, but I would like you guys to think about and include exactly those ones that you expect to track, the problematic points that you can currently have on your projects or inside of your department, whenever it is, and start tracking it. And I hope in a couple years I will see that this tool is actually transformed in something huge that I even didn't think when I've been creating it. And another example, it's issue tracking. Once again, if you have these red or yellow zones here, right, like 1, 3, whenever it is, I'm expecting my key engineers to make a log of an issue. It's not a Jira ticket. It's issue for the project. It's issue for the process. It's issue for the to actually execute the good testing, right? And this issue log is very simple. Date when it was logged, issue name, then Jira ticket for not for resolution, but if it's related to the specific story or bug so far. Action point for resolutions that we are brainstorming and documenting here. Freeform comment, status, and when it was closed. Another statistic that I'm gathered, as I mentioned before, I'm also measuring the how much days it took to close the issue from the open date to the close date. From my perspective, it should not be more than 1 quarter, 3 months, and that's what I'm tracking from my side and as an improvement. So now, attention focus slide, right? So once again, let's recap previous points that we discussed. First one is how we evaluate the points that we previously defined and included into our framework, right? Once again, 1 and 2, it's red zone, 3, it's yellow zone, 4 and 5, it's green zone. So easy as this. Another point is example of arrangement, right? I will return back. Once again, that is something that we use in just simple Excel to arrange it and allow key engineer to fulfill the marks and values here for future reporting. I assume that this approach could also like be implemented as like a web platform or whenever it is. But once again, Excel for us, for Softermii, for now it's fine and it totally serves the purpose that it's initially planned. Now let's go to the process overall, right? So process, where it starts. Once the framework is defined and Excel spreadsheet is created for the specific project, right? You need to make sure that once project is start, you making the copy from the template to this for the specific project. Then you're asking your key engineer to fulfill a report on the weekly basis. It's up to you to pick up the date. It could be Monday, it could be Friday, whenever it is. You're in charge when it should be filled. Then key lead manager on weekly basis meet with key to review the report. That is my recommendation for large company department. It could be done offline, and for problematic project, follow-up shall be set up for the live calls. That's what I previously mentioned. When you have like 50 projects, 40 projects, you're paying attention only for the red ones, because 15 minutes multiply 50, it's probably more than 1 day that you need to spend to review, to have a calls with all projects. But you need to pay attention only those problematics that was reported to you. Next step, key lead manager has to review value per point and see the problem statement to make sure it does make sense. Once again, your key engineer reports you the issue of a process, but you need to double check that it's actually issue. Because once again, there could be some gaps in understanding of a key engineer. It could be some other root cause why the specific point is marked as red or yellow. You need to double check it. If it makes sense, then you work with the QA to define real root cause and update documents this problem statement, right? In case if you see the point as a green, once again, if you are working with a new QA, with a new project, make sure to requesting the proof that it's actually green. Because people usually can just provide for you, like a report, I'm fine. I'm totally fine with this process, with the things, how it's set up on the project. But in generally, in the end of a project, it failed. Due dates are not met and so on, right? That you're returning back and actually understand that those points were not green. So ask a proof until you get exactly level of confidence and level of trust for the specific project or for the specific key engineer. And review the proposed resolution as final to approve it. Next one, it's according to the process. Once you brainstorm its resolution, make sure that your key understands it. You can define whenever proposed steps or action points, but if key engineer doesn't understand what exactly has to be done, then you will not see, you will not have the good results by the next week. So double check that key actually understand what has to be done, and document these actions to the report. So during the week, QA tries to apply the proposed resolution and gives you feedback to the same report for the next week, right? And if it's resolved, you should see like 4.5 LS, green zone, the specific milestone or process returned. In case if it's still yellow or red, you need to revise probably the action points, or maybe there is some gaps in execution of the action points that you asked your engineer to fulfill, right? So in general, this process, once again, it allows you to build a RAG landscape to see the green and red projects that you need to pay attention on. Moving on, attention slide. On the previous steps, right, we covered the exactly process and guide how to work with the file, how to work with the framework. Key point here is, once again, you got the feedback for the issue or issue reported. Make sure that issue is relevant. Define the action points that how to resolve this issue. Track it through the next week that it's actually resolved. And if it's not, that once again, propose another action points or check how it was actually executed. Maybe once again, gaps are in the execution overall. And pretty much last slide. So far, pros and cons. I promised it for you those key points that I found for myself. It's pros, it's self-organization, early feedback, easy to engage, because all points is not something like new that we are trying to develop or invent. It's common steps of a process, but now they are declared and mapped for the project execution. Build good communication with your key engineers is also the good tool, once again, that you not just had that sitting somewhere in the office in his cabinet and nobody sees. Having this framework engaged, I'm pretty much socializing with all my colleagues, not on daily basis, but once again, I know what happening at the project, I know what happening in their life, and overall, I have the communication with the colleagues that is part of the good relationship building inside of your organization. Knowledge sharing, right? Because you are proposing some resolution, some actions that has to be done to resolve or improve the situation, and your key engineers are quickly learning how to act in those situations. So finally, they are like reporting less and less issues because all of them starting to be resolved like even before it's reported to your site. An easy way to self-organize and show your productivity, once again, if you will create this report and show to your managers, they will be happy and surprised to see your level of the self-organization. And cons, it's once again, it's those ones that all these points evaluation, they are subjective, right? It's not like calculated by formula, it's not calculated by some other approach. It's something that feedback QA gives you how they feel about those or another specific point of a project. And pretty much I explained how to work for it. You need to double check the red zones and green zones before you will get actually to the great level of the trust and that you understand that you can let go of this key engineer to work further. In general, that's all. Yeah, big topic. I hope to finish it earlier, but anyway, time for Q&A. Alena, do we have any questions so far from auditory?
Yep, Maxim, thank you so much for the presentation. That was very interesting in view of this topic, and it was quite insightful as well. I think that was really useful to all our listeners. And dear listeners, if you enjoyed the talk, please scan this QR code, which is on the screen, and rate our event. That will help us to understand that this event was interesting to you, and we'll bring more later. So now we are starting the Q&A session. And if you haven't sent us your questions yet, that's a good sign to do that right now. Just as a reminder, in our YouTube chat, Well, you can do it at any moment right now. So let's see the questions that we have. And the first question would be like this one on the screen. Like, hello, do you use test plan or test strategy? When usually people have those, there is no issue with missing points, and there is no such things as obvious.
All right, good question. First
Yeah.
one, yeah, for obvious, I do agree once again that we should not expect that people saying that it's obvious actions or artifacts to do. Everything should be declared, everything should be agreed, and test strategy it's a good document to capture all like uh, major point of a process and execution of the test life cycle, right? Including the mobile adaptive testing, performance testing, maybe test automation whenever it is. But problem about the test strategy, it's something that created on the leads level. Usually the common key engineers doesn't create the test strategy so far, even when I'm talking about the middle or junior level. And when you're passing the document to them, it's something that they read it, and based on my practice, they forget about it about like couple days. And picking it up and remind them, guys, do you remember about the point 4.1.3 inside of the strategies that we need to do? Once again, based on my experience, usually when gap is defined, then we see that in the strategy it was, but it actually was not executed. And retrospectively, we then saw that, yeah, there was rush on the project. That's why I forget to execute the specific type of testing. That framework actually allows you to be on track and highlight, keep people attention that these points are expecting you to be done not today, but maybe in 1 month or 2 months, but it's something that you have to execute. And that is exactly point that you are not going to miss, because once again, you usually on the weekly basis, you're returning back to your process map and you know and understand what you need to execute and what you already executed. That is general all answer for this one. And yeah, if you're using test plan, test strategy, yeah, we're using once again test plans and test strategy. But this test strategy is usually for a period to make a contract before we'll sign it up, and then the strategy decompose it to the framework.
Thank you for detailed comments on this topic. And okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Aha. Which typical health points could you recommend to monitor?
Yeah, typical one, once again, I will go through my groups. So from the precondition group, right? Input for the team that is required to be done in the good level of quality as well. It's user story. Then when we're talking about the requirements, it's traceability matrix between the user stories and functional requirements in ideal world, plus Figma design, business process diagram, at least, and ideal world, once again, it is use case diagram. In ideal world, once again, it's BRD. Usually we're working just with user stories and Figma because not much customers are willing to invest in other type of documentation. That's why we are working with this one. Next one is control of a process, right? It's points that we engage on our side. Could be that developers actually, once again, have the unit tested, written and executed for each build. Then that actually developer executed his feature that he completed testing according to acceptance criteria that define it into the document. Because if it's missed, then it will be resulted in more volume of bugs during the testing, right? And it's something that we're looking for. Our golden standard that we're trying to achieve is 70% of pass rate for the first cycle of a testing and 30% of the remaining pass fail rate. 70 plus 30, yeah. So 70 pass rate for the first cycle and plus 30 on the second cycle. So, but I see the situation when it comes to 4 cycles, 5 cycle of a testing to close the feature. That's why these specific processes control are required to be engaged. And last one, it's control the end of equality. It's build stabilization procedure, as we call it. It's common bug fix, but with some enhanced activities for our key engineers to do the analytics job so far. Then it's thought freeze, hard freeze is usually I provided then a specific key exit report. Was it generated and sent to customer or not? Was approved for the build received from a customer or not? That is a specific milestone, once again, that has to be on the plate of each key engineer and not missed during the cache.
Okay, thank you, Maxim. And let's see what else we have, and if we have time to answer that. Okay, one more question. Can you suggest tools to support the QA project health monitoring?
Yeah, the key project health monitoring or framework, as I call it, I would say it's self-organized inside itself, right? There is nothing that has to be on or used on the side of it. But for sure, like if we are going to expand it, it's something that we could use the Jira, especially filters and dashboards, where you can consume the specific information about the progress of bugs, burn chart of a team. Then you can see the standard good gadget on the Jira as well, created versus resolved bugs. So it's something that can help you to additionally evaluate the RAG status of your overall.
Okay, makes sense. So, and we have a couple of more. So, do we have strict requirements of defining these values? 5, 4, 3. I think they're referring to that slide with scores.
Yeah, you need in general, I would say there is no specific requirements that you can use at this point, like means there is no any dictation from my side how to evaluate it, right? All that you need to understand that you need to play in the field of a RAG, red, amber, green. And your evaluation and your values that you're going to set up for this for the specific point should be exactly in this specific zone. So you can either just do not use the values, but you can just highlight the cells with the red, green, or yellow. But problem is why I'm not recommending to do it, because finally you wanted to take the statistics through the quarter, through the year of the specific project, and when you have just the highlights, you're not able to calculate it through the Excel easily. Yeah, some formulas could be used, but anyway, that's why I'm recommending the specific 543. Like it's actually 6 values that you can set up from 0 till 5, right? And each of them actually have a meaning. I personally wanted to stop on 4 because 4, it's, as I said, it's green zone. But once again, everybody remembers the old system when we have the 5-mark system, right?
Yes.
That's why we have a 5 as ideal result.
Okay. Okay, and looks like we have the last one for today and in overall. So in case of several teams with at least on lead, one probably at least one lead in a stream, how to get that everyone understands these points equally? That's an important thing.
Yeah, so we at Softermii, we have the key practice. It's based on confluence, where everything is explained. Means there is point and specific paragraph of explanation. Where is it? What we actually measuring? What our goal of measuring this specific point, and how we evaluate it with some examples. Because as I said, I'm working with the junior level case. I'm interested in to get the talented people on my side to my department and quickly grow them to the good level of the performance. That's why I need to have this such detailed documents and guides created. That is exactly how you are going to achieve it. Make sure that it is written, documented, and everybody read it. Another point of control that I do recommend here as well is to create a quiz at the end of this Confluence article about the points. have a quiz that people after reading just making the self-evaluation, what they understood it. And if somebody understands the specific point not in the correct way, then you will see it as because Google Forms will report it to you, and then you can work with this specific person to actually make sure that he understands your specific point. Plus, another one that I see in this question, probably not obviously asked, but in case if we have couple team members, couple team members could have a different point of view, like different feeling about the specific point. For some engineer, he been working with features that has a good requirements and design, but for other QA engineer, he got some features that being like in hectic and rush and just prepared before grooming. So there is a lot of gaps, and half of design is ready. That's why on the specific spreadsheet of Excel, I'm creating the same tab, but I'm calling it as team input when I'm giving the ability for each team member let his input on the rows to evaluate it. And then automatically by formulas, system converts average to the actual report of a project. You can see. And finally, it's never 5 when somebody has an issue, right? If it's like 553, in average, it's not 5, so that is a point to return back and discuss it with a specific person. That is my recommendation.
Thank you, Maksim, for such extensive answers. So it looks like while we were talking about the last question, another last question arrived. And do you mind answering this one? That's the very, very last one.
Very quickly, right? So
Okay. In which
Mhm.
document is it optimal to specify and record the dates for the freeze code during each sprint? If possible, comment in a little more detail on hard and soft freeze and how you define them. Maybe we don't have much time for very much details, but maybe at least.
I will try to be very short here. So soft freeze, it's when feature development is done and you got actually last feature commitment to your branch. You starting the pretty much or continuing the bug fix around it. So no new development happens, means you do not expect the new features. Hot freeze, it's exactly where no new features and no bugs are fixed and merge it to the branch only after approval of key engineer and the control of the key engineer, right? So soft freeze, once again, it's last feature is done and you just making the testing and stabilizing it. Hot freeze, everything is done, means no merge more and you are in control of the further developments further. When we're talking about which document optimal to specify and record the dates for the freeze code, I'm not recommending to document it at all like a dates, unless you're talking about the plan. And if you're talking about the plan, then inside of key plan, you need to exactly specify that this specific period that I'm expecting to receive last feature into the testing has to be declared as soft freeze. The beauty of this plan that you can always share your screen during the daily call with the team, especially when we all working remotely currently, right? And show the current state and what is going to happen tomorrow or going to happen in a couple of days. That's the way how you actually declaring that this soft freeze should happen and when it should happen based on your key plan. So from my perspective, that is the most suitable one. That is on the key engineering level. But when we're talking about the head level, then it's framework. Then I'm expecting my key engineers to actually declare that this procedure is happening. And I'm actually don't care about when the specific day. I'm actually care about that is actually engaging, because once again, it's very important for the code quality and final delivery.
Okay, and thank you. And that was really the last question for today. Maksim, once again, thank you so much for sharing your valuable experience. And that was very useful and, again, very interesting view on the topic. Dear listeners, thank you for supporting this event. So stay tuned, join Pro Quality community in social networks, and may your tests always be flawless. Bye bye.
Thank you, Alona. Bye all.